Before becoming an ASF fellow, I never really saw myself as a leader, and it was mainly because of what I thought it meant. I thought being a leader meant that you needed to have a lot of influence on others and therefore have a lot of followers that would do what you told them to. Now I know that's really not the definition of being a leader. To me, being a leader means to be able to accommodate and change in times where there's uncertainty. It also means to work as a team and appreciate and value those who are a part of it. And I think more importantly, being a leader is bringing in real passion and intention whenever trying to make something meaningful. And in this case, it was to make this project. And now I know that in the future, I have that skill, which is to be a leader, to conduct and deliver something meaningful to my community.
When thinking of what it means to be a leader and how my idea of this has changed from beginning the Albert Schweitzer Fellowship to now finishing the fellowship, I can honestly say my idea of that has changed drastically. Now, I've always had this idea that leaders were people who were empathetic, showcased integrity, and who were able to empower and motivate people around them, and I do still believe those things. But also beforehand, I felt leaders were these people who were just overly confident and courageous in every scenario, had answers to all the questions, came in overly prepared, and as a result of that, left little to no room for error. But instead, what I've learned as a result of this program specifically is that really the most successful leaders are those who just showcase self-awareness, who show perseverance in the face of adversity, and who have a willingness to lean on those around them when they need help. I think coming into this program, I had this idea that if I came in overly prepared and had this detailed guide as far as what I was going to complete and how I was going to complete it, that I was going to be the most successful. What I learned is that even when coming in fully prepared, there were still a lot of things that I had to change along the way. And that's just because you can't account for certain things, and that's fine. Instead, what that just showed me was that the true test of a leader is someone who is able to be presented these different obstacles and find a way to overcome them. And I think a lot of that just, goes back to leaning on those around you and listening more than you speak. Listening to those who have been in your shoes before and learning to take their advice, and also leaning on those around you and allowing those with different expertise and experiences to help you in those endeavors. So these qualities to me now are what make the most successful leaders. And I'm glad that Albert Schweitzer not only gave me the opportunity to develop those skills, but also just enlightened me to what that truly means to be a leader so that I can be an effective leader in the future myself.
The most important thing I've learned during this year as an Albert Schweitzer Fellow is that you don't have to be perfect to be an effective leader. I'm a planner, I'm very detail oriented, but I realized early on in my project that my plan would need to evolve and I would need to adapt to those changes. I've also learned that being a good leader requires giving yourself grace when things don't go according to your plan. Just because a project didn't turn out the way you wanted it to does not mean that you failed. If even one person was impacted in a positive way, then you made a difference, and that is how you change the world.
I'm so grateful that Albert Schweitzer Fellowship allowed me to develop a relationship with my partners at Braveheart Center for Place and Purpose. When searching for a potential partner organization, I was deeply drawn to its core values, especially the emphasis on each participant is unique. It is important to see the difference within every person with disabilities, even if they share the same diagnosis. When working with the young adults in Braveheart Center, it's nothing like implement and intervention. I and the young adults with their family members truly bonded, like having actual connections, not just forming a therapeutic alliance between clients and a healthcare professional. It was beyond rewarding when the participants enthusiastically called my name out loud as they saw me, inside or outside the research site. I've gained so much from building relationships with those young adults. For instance, a participant who barely said a word to me during the intake interview last year, she out of her comfort zone by beginning to ask about my life and sharing her life with me. I feel so privileged to have seen her growth.
Now, the first individual that I can think of, we're going to call him Tommy. He was a participant in the first group of students that I saw at Lee County Development Center. Now, the first group of participants, to give a little background, were individuals that were kind of considered wards of the state, that were in the system because of familial issues. In any case, this particular individual, Tommy, was in the facility because of an instance where he got into an altercation with family members. Overall, he didn't need to be in there. I don't think, anyways. Nevertheless, he remained hopeful, and that's the thing that struck me. He was hopeful, and he was forgiving, and he bore through the affliction of being in that facility. Just meekness. I mean, I like to think that if I was put in that situation, I mean, I don't know, I would probably be upset, but he wasn't upset, and he's still there. He's just in a different state, or in a different setting of the facility, and he still remains hopeful that he can go back to his family. In any case, I remember just talking to him and hanging out with him, playing cards, playing basketball, and it's just his demeanor that really struck me, of bearing through affliction, and I really appreciated that. I remember this one instance, me and him were talking as we were walking to the basketball courts, and he turns to me and he asked me, so why are you doing this? Meaning the project that I was working on. I told him, well, because I got selected for a fellowship, the regular spiel. And then he said, but why? Why are you doing this? He kept pressing on. And then finally I go, well, I mean, I didn't understand what he was driving at. And he asked me, well, why would we spend so much time with us? And then I turned to him and I say, well, because I want to get to know you, Tommy. Because I like you, Tommy, and I think, you guys deserve a little bit better. And this kind of struck him. I don't think anybody, I shouldn't say that. I don't think that anyone he didn't know was willing to sacrifice their time to spend time with him. And ever since then, me and him were like good friends, and he was always looking forward to my presentations and to spending time together. And I just really appreciated that time, and I really learned a lot from him about just bearing through affliction and just bearing it patiently. So I really admired that.
A relationship that I like to talk about is our relationship with the students. Through this journey, through the good and the bad, we've learned a lot from them as they have from us. But I will say I've learned a lot from them about just being a mentor and being a leader to them, what works, what doesn't work, and how to just keep that connection and that bond to make sure that they last for a while, for a lifetime.
When we're talking about relationships that formed during the fellowship, I think that one in particular really stood out to me would have to be the relationship that my project partner and I formed, Eric. He truly got me through a lot of obstacles during this time and always taught me how to persevere no matter what came in our way. Our project wouldn't have been what it is now without him, so thank you.
With my project in the PATH Clinic, I've had the opportunity to work with patients from all walks of life. One person I worked with really stood out to me. So when I first met her, she was struggling with the recent loss of her husband and was managing her chronic disease. And her husband had handled all of the technology, all of the online tasks for her and for himself. And we started talking about technology and what she wanted to be able to do, what she felt she couldn't. And it came out that she felt like not being able to remember her passwords were such a poor marker for her. She felt like if she couldn't even log into a patient portal or an app, then what's the point in trying to go further? So I sat with her, I gave her some information and some tips about how to make passwords that are easy to remember and still secure. And as I was talking to her and I was letting her do different things, showing her how to do them, I could just see her confidence increasing. She was asking more questions. I could see her getting ideas about other things she could do and learn to do. And I realized through this interaction that I was really having modeled for me an incredible kind of behavior. So it really resonated with me on a personal level. As someone who is changing careers and in medical school in my early 40s, I was really blown away by her and just her ability to pinpoint exactly what she felt was holding her back, take small steps, ask for help, learn as she goes, and just stay optimistic and stay thinking about other things that could come from this challenging step in learning something new. And that really inspired me. I felt like she was demonstrating so much courage in her life in so many different ways, and it really just helped me feel that I could be brave like her. So I'm grateful for the lesson I learned from this patient, and I'm excited to see where my own journey takes me next.
Working with the Albert Schweitzer Foundation has been such a rich, rewarding experience. We created with our program something called the Pathfinder program, which is a mentoring program for students who are at risk and who suffer from fatherlessness. And there's plenty of well-known established data correlated to really bad outcomes with fatherlessness, or really just a single-parent household. And when working with the students, we really reach them, and what I learned is that mentorship, really any kind of relationship, it's not a one-way road. You can have all these ideas of the ways you want to improve your person's life and make them better, but it's not a one-way street. You have to give and take constantly, and you really have to be vulnerable yourself and open yourself up to allow the person you're mentoring to do the same. And as a future psychiatrist, these skills are invaluable. The lessons I've learned here, the practice I've got working with these students is invaluable. I plan on carrying these lessons that I've learned into therapeutic relationships that I'll have with my future patients.
Our site mentor, Miss Tiffany Osborne, has truly shown me what it takes to turn a plan into reality. In one of her most infamous sayings, she always tells us that we have to keep ourselves honest. And that looks like creating a plan and sticking to it, making those small, short-term goals that we can continue to reach week by week. And as we continue to stay the course, we continue to see change. She has taught us what the importance of sustainability is, and how through sustainability is how we truly affect change. Her mentorship to me looks like accountability, dependability. It looks like effective communication. Miss Osborne truly embodies all of those traits, and she is truly the mentor that I aspire to be, the mentor that will continue to inspire the next generation.
So the relationships that I've developed, Dr. Bowers, Dr. Patton, Colin, Joya, and Grace, and others serving the residents of the Changed Lives Christian Center and the farm are ones that will, honestly, they'll last me a lifetime. I began volunteering at the CLCC in the spring of 2018, more than 5 years ago, and to see what the clinic has become today and the good that it does for these residents. All I can say is I'm proud to have been involved with such admirable individuals to create something larger than ourselves and to continue to. In terms of what I've learned from Dr. Patton and Dr. Bowers is that in order to create something worthwhile and beneficial to others, what it takes is a little vision, a whole lot of persistence, attention to detail, and a village of like-minded individuals whose purpose is to serve in different forms, whatever they may be, for a common goal.
My experience with ASF has given me a valuable insight on the importance of mental health care and caregivers of pediatric leukemia and lymphoma patients. As a future physician, I will one day be responsible for the holistic care of patients, and this includes mental health well-being. When I first started this project, I was really nervous about having conversations about mental health. It's just because it's something that's very personal to everyone. But throughout having more conversations and discussions with caregivers, I became more comfortable about bringing up this topic and asking questions about mental health. Also, I received amazing feedback and guidance through my two mentors, Dr. Xavier and Dr. Megan Swain, along with my ASF mentors, Kristen and Keaton. And they've helped me through every step, and they've taught me how to become a more caring and compassionate person, and been just amazing role models for me. Dr. Xavier and Dr. Megan Swain have shown me what it means to truly care for a patient and go beyond just treating their disease, but also considering all those factors that are so important and integral to their health. I hope that with all these experiences that I can in the future become a more caring and compassionate physician.
This experience has taught me that substantial change can occur through ripples, and one day we will see these ripples turn into waves in our community. Solomon and I love speaking with our patients and asking them their perceptions on mental health and seeing how those perceptions have changed after we administered the fotonovela. We loved hearing that some patients didn't know what mental health was, they didn't know about mental health illnesses, and now that they're ready to seek care, they are more open about treatment options and asking for help. Those are some small wins that we think will turn into greater wins within our community, and we are so excited to see how this impacts community outcomes.
This experience has taught me that sustainable change does not occur overnight. No matter how intricately you devise your master plan, all these over-the-moon goals or intentions or resolutions we have cannot be sustained or remain relevant and effective in our ever-evolving world and communities if we only work on them once in a while. This fellowship year has shown me that bringing about sustainable change requires recommitting yourself to the goal day after day, over and over and over again. So I think personally, my biggest takeaway about driving sustainable change is that you have to remain committed to your cause and firm in your goals, but you have to be flexible in your methods. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan, never the goal.
The fellowship has taught me that sustainable change is not a meter dash. Sustainable change is a marathon that takes planning, consistency, and commitment.
This experience has taught me a lot about sustainable changes, and I think one major part of this is to have community input and feedback up front, maybe even before you start your project. I think that has been very valuable and allowed me to take a more tailored approach in what the community needs. And another part of what this experience taught me is if you can work with multiple disciplines. I think for my project, there are certainly parts of my experience that would not have been as impactful or well done if we weren't able to have other varied expertise in the field. And so I think when you're able to work together among the organization and expertise, you just have a more meaningful impact for the community.
When I think about my experience as an Albert Schweitzer Fellow, let me first just start by saying this has been a wonderful and amazing experience, and really no amount of words can describe that. So I always talk about, I said it in my initial interview, and I even talk about it now, just in general conversation about the fellowship. You know, I've been a part of community service projects, but I have never led one. So getting the opportunity to create something so amazing and beautiful from the ground up has just been really, like I just said, no words can describe. And so my project focuses on addressing the mental health needs of Black women and girls. And the organization that I have partnered with, No More Martyrs, now rebranded as the Black Women's Mental Health Institute, it has been an eye-opening experience. I identify as a Black woman, and so I've become aware of some of the concerns around our mental health that we struggle with, but actually being, on the front lines and witnessing the concerns and getting that direct input from those that I'm working with, whether that's through free counseling services that I offer, workshops, trainings, monthly support groups, any of that, every chance that I can get to learn of the concerns and how to best be of service on my end, I'm willing to do it. And it has just been, like I said, amazing and just truly eye-opening and just a learning experience overall. And when I think about how I view that as how I want to be in the future, Black women and girls is a population that I want to continue working with this population. And so in thinking about that, I hope to continue my commitment to learning, my openness to giving and also receiving feedback.
So many ways that my mentality and the way that I envision myself in the future has changed by working with marginalized communities such as fatherless youth. I think that I gained a deeper understanding of these individuals and the struggles that they face and how to implement certain workshops to be able to help them. get to where they want to be, not necessarily where you see them going, because sometimes that always doesn't line up. And I think that by gaining insight into the challenges that an underserved community faces, even if you haven't experienced it yourself, is something that you need to do in order to collaboratively work with community members for sustainable outcome solutions. I think that the Albert Schweitzer Fellowship, the support and the drive that your fellow cohort has, and the leadership in the Schweitzer Fellowship, and working towards a more equitable future is something that I've always wanted, but it's really rewarding to actually sit down, pen to paper, and say, hey, I'm going to do this. And then after a year's done, you look back and you're like, wow, I don't know how I got here. Because it was an idea and now it's an actual reality. And I think that's something that's very, very valuable, and has been really rewarding for me as I move into my future as a medical doctor.
So I think as a physician, it's important to realize that a lot of the people that I'll be serving don't come from the same background as me, and while I may never be able to understand exactly where they're coming from and all of their life experiences, I think having the chance to work and discuss difficulties so openly with people experiencing homelessness has really opened my eyes to the difficulties of experiencing homelessness and some of the things that I just never even thought of, like trying to get certifications and licenses, or trying to have a child and things like that. And so I am incredibly grateful for the people that were willing to share their stories with me and share their experiences, because those will absolutely be things that I think about when I'm serving patients, regardless of what specialty I go into. And I think it also kind of just helps me stop and think and realize that people are going through a lot more than we realize. And if someone's coming into the doctor and they say that they need help, they're saying they need help with that specific thing, but they also have 100 things in the background that we don't know about. And it's important to recognize that. It's important to attempt to address it as best as you can, or find the people and the resources that can. And I think that, I've gained a really great understanding of the resources in Birmingham for people experiencing homelessness, and I absolutely plan to use that while I'm working in my clinical years for medical school.
So this experience has shaped me to be the leader that I want to be in the future in many ways. It has taught me how to be personal with people. It has taught me how to pivot in times of when I'm unsure, in times of stress. And it also taught me how to be relatable with people, and how to build relationships first and then get to work next.